clears enough. Claire got behind the element defense.
Hi, I'm Elliot Trotter, and welcome to Warm Up, Sky Magazine's preview show for the 2012 College Championships in Boulder, Colorado. And we are here to talk women's division. We have some excellent women's correspondents here with us today. Here we have Robin Fenig and Maya Ziv, both who have been covering the entire season, part of our 2012 College Tour presented by Spin Ultimate. Robin and Maya, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us, Elliot.
So let's talk about some of the highlights of the season. You know, we've seen a lot happen. We've seen favorites become teams that just were unreliable. We've seen other teams just come out of the woodwork, and some fly under the radar and really finish up strong at the end of the season and have become serious contenders. And we'll fill in the blanks of who those teams are exactly. But let's talk a bit about what some of the exciting parts of the season have been. Maya, why don't we start with you?
Sure. So we started off the season at the Pres Day Invite, and I think that was one of the first big tournaments of the season where we saw a lot of top teams really battling it out. One of the teams I want to point out there is Oregon, right away, showing up how dominant they are this year again. They only lost one game that weekend to UW, and they went on to the finals to beat Santa Barbara 15-2. That was one of the first times where we saw Oregon really bust out that junk zone that's been giving a lot of teams some trouble this season. And so I think we're really looking forward to seeing them, the number one seed at Nationals, seeing how they do. So Pres Day was really their breakout tournament there. Another tournament that I wanted to bring up was Queen City Tune-Up, and that was also in February. And the finals game there, the UNC-UNCW game, I'd never really seen those two teams play before, and watching them battle it out was absolutely amazing. I think it's really a bummer that UNCW didn't qualify this year for Nationals, but gives a team like Delaware a great shot to make some noise in Boulder. So I'm really looking forward to seeing the Atlantic Coast teams show up big.
Robin, what about you? What were some of the exciting games or tournaments that you saw this year?
Yeah, I didn't get to travel as much as Maya did this spring, but I did get to see a lot of Midwestern competition. So covering the regions like the North Central, South Central, Great Lakes, and Ohio Valley. I went to Midwest Throwdown at the beginning of March. We did get to see some out-of-region teams, make the travel all the way to St. Louis. Iowa and Iowa State looked like the most dominant teams there. They really play strong zone offenses and really strong zone defenses. We also saw Iowa State playing some really good man-to-man D on some pretty good teams. Iowa State came out on top. We have this really good rivalry between Iowa and Iowa State in the North Central that's been really building upon each other probably since about 2009, 2010. And they've kind of been trading wins and losses all season. But Iowa State definitely came out on top as the best team at Midwest Throwdown. Also, you got to see Ohio State play a little bit. I think that they've shown much improvement since their performance at Throwdown. And I also went to Chicago Invite. Unfortunately, none of the teams that went to Chicago Invite are going to meet in Boulder, but got to see some other good regional competition.
So on the note of regional competition and regionals themselves, let's look at some of the surprises out of those tournaments, those qualifying tournaments. Who did not make it to the championships that we were expecting to? And on that note, who did that we were expecting would not? Robin, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think out of the North Central, with only having 3 bids, I think everyone was really waiting to see which one of those top 4 teams was not going to qualify, and seeing Syzygy not qualify. Carleton has been to the championships the highest number of times. They've got such a strong history of qualifying, so I think the field at Boulder is going to be a little different without them there. I'm also surprised that North Carolina Wilmington didn't qualify. They've had pretty solid results all season. But like Maya said, seeing a team like Delaware get a shot to make some noise is really exciting.
And Maya, who are some of the teams that you were excited to see? Obviously Delaware. This is I'm not sure if they've qualified before, but they haven't in recent years.
Right. Well, so I was actually at the Southwest Regional Tournament, and that was just an absolute bloodbath. I mean, so I guess one of the biggest games to note was the UCLA Santa Barbara game. It was on Sunday, one of the third games I believe that they played, and UCLA was actually down 13-10 to Santa Barbara, and this was the game to secure their spot to nationals. And they came back with a few breaks actually to win that game. I think they won 14-13. So Santa Barbara was just a few points away from securing their spot. They then went on to face Stanford, and this was in the game to go to the game to go. Really unexpected to see both of these teams there, but that's sort of how the tournament worked out. And after trading points during the whole game, Stanford won, knocking Santa Barbara out, last year's champs. It was pretty heartbreaking, but Stanford went on to beat San Diego State in what it wasn't really that close, 15-7. They definitely earned their spot to nationals. So great for Stanford, a team that we haven't seen too much initially from this season. I think they've been working really hard, and with great leadership and coaching staff, they secured their spot, and really upsetting for Santa Barbara that they didn't qualify this year. Another surprise, I think we saw also from the Southwest, Humboldt taking second. That's absolutely fantastic for the Hags. They have been working so hard all season. I spoke with their coach, Matt Kissman, recently. He was telling me they were working mainly on consistency and communication, and it definitely paid off. They have one of the strongest deep games I've seen coming out of the Southwest, one of the most competitive regions. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing them at Nationals. And so they took second out of the Southwest. And then, sort of on the other side of the country, Florida taking down Central Florida. Florida's one of those teams that, we're talking about flying under the radar, hasn't been performing as well as they have in seasons past. But I spoke with one of their assistant coaches at the Pres Day Invite, and he was telling me that they were ready to take down Central Florida. They had a lot of great matches with them over the season, and they won when it counted. So we'll be seeing Florida at in Boulder this season.
So let's jump to Boulder and start looking at these pools and looking them over. I'm already very excited for what I think are going to be a series of really close games. And starting with Pool A, this is what might be the most competitive pool of the tournament. So what can we say about Pool A? We've got Oregon, Wisconsin, Sonoma State. Those are three big names there. Texas and Ohio State as well. What are expectations from this pool?
I think to kick it off, Oregon, in my opinion, is definitely going to take that pool. Sonoma State has had some great games against them in the past, but I think Oregon has been working hard. They've been dominating at sectionals and regionals, so I'd be surprised if they don't win out there. Sonoma State, I do expect them to take down Wisconsin. They had some inconsistencies at regionals that I think they're going to work really hard on and improve on. But basically, if their top players are on, then I expect them to do exceptionally well. But I don't know if they'll take down Oregon there.
Now,
At the
Oregon,
bottom, I think we might see some Texas and Ohio State excitement, but I think the pool will pretty much go to seed other than Sonoma State taking down Wisconsin.
Now, Oregon, they were a team that started off the season strong and then had a sort of rocky mid-season before coming back to win their region. And you're expecting them to stay strong through this pool.
Yeah, I think when we talk about Oregon's rocky mid-season, we're really talking about a day at Stanford, and I don't really expect them to repeat that. Oregon's a team that knows what it's like to win. They've performed exceptionally well in years past. They have a lot of strong players back this year. They're led by exceptional players, and I think that they have the mentality to win it, honestly. But we'll see if they actually win, but definitely we'll take their pool.
Robin, what about Wisconsin?
Can I add to that a little bit?
Yeah.
I definitely think that the Wisconsin-Sonoma State game is going to be the game really to watch in pool play. I think that both the teams, I think they run fairly similar games, though I know that Wisconsin, in addition to having a great deep game, from what I heard out of the teams that were in the same pool as them at Suntex, that they had a really, really great deep game, really able to spread the field and put the disc to space and let their cutters run to it. But I've also seen them play some very patient offense with their handlers being very dominant and just breaking marks at will. So I think that matchup is definitely something to really watch. It'll be one of those pinnacle games at nationals this year.
Hmm. Robin, do you think Wisconsin's capable of taking down Oregon as well?
Now, I haven't seen Oregon play at all this season, but I do think that when Wisconsin's on, they're on. They have a very athletic roster. I definitely am really excited to see Julie Chen and Biz Cook match up with some of the really athletic players on Oregon. I also think that watching Emily McCain and Sophie Darch match up together, if that happens, that would be really exciting to watch as well. Both make incredible plays on both sides of the disc, and I mean, I don't know if either one of them can contain the other. So that matchup, I think, would be really fun to watch.
All right, moving over to Pool B, we've got Washington, Iowa, Humboldt State, UCLA, and Delaware. Washington is a team that's also had a very strong and more consistent season than Oregon. They won the Stanford Invite and came in second in Northwest Regionals under Oregon. Robin, what do you have to say about this pool?
Yeah, I definitely think that Washington is going to win out Pool B. I think that their season has been very strong. They have a lot of experience, very deep roster this year. I think that Iowa's been performing very well towards since regionals. They've been really focusing on keeping working to improve every single day, and that's definitely shown in the practices that I've seen. Especially out of their younger players. I've been watching them make plays that I haven't seen them make in 2 years, so that's exciting. I also think that the UCLA Humboldt State, Maya and I were talking before, I guess, this show. UCLA definitely, I think, is going to take Humboldt State ready to kind of avenge regionals. UCLA, I think, is a very talented and deep team. Kodiak is definitely a dominant handler, and I think that if she's on, UCLA is unstoppable. Delaware, I'm not really sure how they'll match up against the rest of Pool B. Their schedule has been a little bit weaker than the rest of the teams in the pool, but they were able to take down Bloomington. So if they're able to put together a good game, that maybe they can at least get some really close games in.
And Maya, do you have anything to add about Pool B?
Yeah, definitely. So talking to UCLA at regionals after their loss to Humboldt State, I got the feeling that they were just a little bit tired. It was their last game of the weekend. They definitely run their top players a lot. That being said, UCLA has been working on an excellent zone that I'm really excited to see how it plays out against some of the top teams in the country. I think Humboldt State is just going to have a little bit of a hard time. They did perform well at sectionals and regionals and what we said was one of the most competitive regions. They have yet to face and do well against a lot of out of region teams. And I think that might get in their heads a bit. They've also had some problems in the past with some chippy calls and questionable play. So with all their games observed, we'll see how that plays out. That being said, one of the games that I saw that they played observed at regionals, they played out of their minds, just amazing ultimate. Like I said, they've got some of the best deep game. I'm really excited to see how Charlie and Kodiak match up in the Humboldt UCLA game. And so I think UCLA will take it. They're ready to win that game. I also think UCLA has a good shot of taking down Washington. That's pretty much the game that they are preparing to win. So Washington is probably feeling a little bit comfortable in this pool right now, but I think UCLA's fourth place finish and consequently their low seed in this pool isn't really accurate of how they'll finish up in this pool.
And it may play out well for them, this being a tournament where teams aren't playing really more than 2 or so games a day, whereas in a normal tournament you might play 4, maybe even 5. So that could work well for UCLA resting their starters. So let's move on to Pool C. We've got Michigan, North Carolina, British Columbia, Stanford, and Florida. Maya, what are you seeing in this pool?
Michigan, I think, will have no problem taking this pool. They are just an absolutely dominant team, definitely a front runner to win it. North Carolina lost their finals game to Virginia, and so that seats them a little bit lower than they might have liked. But I think the Michigan North Carolina game will be a great matchup. Stanford, another team, they earned their way all season, earning a fifth bid for their region and then fighting their way to that last fifth bid at regionals. And so I think they'll have a really good game against UBC. But I'm pretty sure that this pool will go to seed. I really don't see anyone taking down Michigan or North Carolina other than Michigan beating North Carolina there.
Robin, do you agree with that assessment?
Yeah, I think I really do. I think that it's pretty close to going to seed. The Michigan North Carolina game will be a good game, but I definitely think Michigan will come out on top in that matchup.
And our last pool, Pool D, California, Virginia, Iowa State, Tufts, and Ottawa. Robin, what are you seeing here?
Well, because Iowa State lost their game in the semifinals to Wisconsin at regionals, um, they, I think, got bumped down a little bit in seeding. The thing is, I think that Iowa State, especially Semtex, has definitely demonstrated that they have the ability to win big games. I think out of all the teams at the championships, I think they may have the most universe point wins out of the entire season. I mean, even if they don't play their best game and it's a close game, they have the ability to come out on top. They're a very mentally tough team. The only teams that they've only lost to one team that's not in the championships. I definitely think that they have the tools there to put together a game that they can win the pool. I know that Maya's probably going to disagree with me about the Cal Iowa State matchup, but I think that Iowa State can win that pool. Virginia, I mean, they've been performing very well at the end of the season. Devin Erickson and Shannon McVay have really helped to lead their team a long way in the past 2 years, and I think that the experience they gained last year will enable them to definitely finish in the top three of the pool. I definitely expect Tufts and Ottawa to finish out 4 and 5.
Maya, what do you have to say about Cal Iowa State, which isn't that game is not going to be occurring until the second day of play on Saturday in the first round?
Right. Contrary to what you might think, Robin, I actually think Iowa State will definitely win Pool D. I think their seeding at regionals put them too low for how they'll perform. I think they'll have no problem taking down Cal and Virginia. Iowa State, to me, is one of the most impressive teams that I've seen all season. I think they're the most versatile. I haven't seen many effective ways of stopping them when they're on. And I know that might be kind of a cop out, but I think they have a really deep roster of players that they can call on. There's no one on their roster that isn't a really intimidating player. Cal runs their offense through a few really key players, but I think that Iowa State has great matchups for those girls. And so I would actually call Iowa State on top of Pool D. And so I think Pool D is going to be the one to keep an eye on. I think there's going to be the most upsets there. And so, yeah, we might not see that game until Saturday, but that'll definitely be the one to keep an eye on. It looks like that's Saturday morning. Definitely the one that I am most looking forward to see in the pool play.
So let's talk semis and predictions for semifinals. Who will be making it out of these crazy pools through the brackets? Robin, who are you seeing?
Well, so based on who I picked to, finish up in quarters, my semifinal matchups include the semifinal one will include Oregon and Iowa State. And my second semifinal, I'm picking Wisconsin to upset Michigan in the quarters so that Wisconsin faces Washington in the other semifinal.
Interesting. And Maya, how do you feel about those and what are your predictions as well?
Well, I'm totally in line with your first semis. I had Oregon and Iowa State there too. But I actually think we'll see Michigan in the semis. I think they're going to be hard pressed to beat before then. And I actually think we'll see, the way I had my bracket played out, Sonoma State facing Washington. And I think they're going to take them down here. I know they had a tough game against them at Stanford, but I think they're ready to revenge that loss. So my other semi will be Michigan, Sonoma State.
Okay, so who are you seeing then in the finals is Sonoma State going to continue that line of victories?
So I actually think that Michigan will take down Sonoma State here, and then we'll see Iowa State taking down Oregon. So I expect that we'll see an Iowa State Michigan final.
Okay. Iowa State and Michigan. And Robin, who are you seeing in the final?
I also have Iowa State taking down Oregon. I would love to see that semifinal game. I think that that would feature the most athletic players in the game. I would love to see it. But I have Iowa State taking down Oregon. And then my other semifinals, my Wisconsin-Washington semi, I've got Washington beating Wisconsin, so that my finals are Iowa State and Washington.
Wow, a lot of Iowa State here. So who are we seeing as this year's champions? Robin?
Um,
I have a feeling this one's hard for you.
I get a lot of flack for definitely favoring the North Central teams. Go North Central. But I think that Iowa State has been building. I mean, I really believe in what Iowa State has really committed to the past few years. They have spent years just developing younger talent, and now that these girls have now developed into becoming leaders on their team, they have a really great program in place, and I definitely think that Iowa State is going to take down Washington for the finals.
Iowa State. All right, Maya, who's your champion this year?
As much as I like to disagree to mix things up, I have to agree with Robin here. I think it's Iowa State's year. They have been building an amazing program. They've got great leadership from all of their players. They really function like a well-oiled machine. They've got just a lot of great athletic players who make amazing plays. They can shred marks. They can sky people. I mean, you have amazing receivers in Becca Miller and Megan Liu, great throwers in Sarah Pesh and Sarah Hoistad. I don't see anyone stopping Iowa State this year. So unfortunately for Michigan, I see them coming in second. Iowa State taking the gold.
Okay, well, Iowa State is potentially a favorite now to take gold this year at the 2012 championships, and that'll be all for us today. Robin Fenig and Maya Ziv are women's correspondents. They'll both be in Boulder to help cover the 2012 college championships with the Sky team. Robin and Maya, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, Elliot.
And I'm Elliot Trotter, here with Sky Magazine's warm-up of the 2012 college championships presented by Spin Ultimate. Thanks for watching.